The first dilemma is from Bereket Birhanu. Don't know if I said your name right. If I didn't, I apologize. Hi, Jordan. When I grow up enough, I want to be like you. Can you advise? What inspired you to be like this? Okay, so first of all, I appreciate that. I am flattered. I understand that a lot of people, especially younger people, look up to me. And what I want you guys to understand, what I need you guys to understand, is that that's not really a good idea. And let me explain why. I don't believe that you should ever look to any content creator or athlete or celebrity as a role model, because oftentimes the image that you see of them is curated for the public eye. For the vast majority of content creators, celebrities, athletes, etc., you're going to see the best of the best versions of them. You don't see the internal struggle. Now, I do believe that I'm an exception to the rule in this regard, in that I'm very open and transparent on my YouTube channel, as well as with my books, in showing you guys some of the struggles that I face on a day-to-day basis. And for some people, that might turn them off from watching my content and seeing me as a role model because they know that I'm human now. They don't pedestalize me anymore because they understand that I will never meet their unrealistic expectations. And to those people, God bless them. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, I have to focus on being my best self while understanding that I will never be perfect, and I can't pretend to be perfect. I can't curate this image of being perfect, because not only is it detrimental to my mental health, but it's also detrimental to your mental health as well. If you look at me as somebody who's living this perfect life, living this YouTube life and being able to travel and do all of these things without actually struggling on a day-to-day basis like other humans do, right? Because no matter what position in life that you're at, you're always going to have internal struggles that may not necessarily be identifiable from the outside looking in. Then you're always going to have an unrealistic perception of me. And like I said, I'm always going to fall short of your idealistic expectations of me, because that is not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to adhere to your unrealistic expectations. And this is a lesson that a lot of celebrities are learning nowadays with the advent of social media, where things like cancel culture have much more prevalence in this modern society. People see that, oh, this person that I've been worshiping, I'm not saying that you worship me, but just generally speaking, this pedestalization, the person that I've been pedestalizing is not the person that I thought that they were. And therefore, I'm not a fan of them. And they should not have the platform that they have because they're human. This is a very toxic mindset to have, and I'm not saying that you have ill intent. Okay, like I said, I am flattered, but just understand that I'm not perfect and I won't pretend to be perfect. And this is a lesson that a lot of people with platforms are learning. Guys like John Morant, guys like Will Smith, okay, people who just have momentary lapses in judgment. This is exacerbated by the prevalence of this pedestalization and this worshiping of celebrities. And obviously, I'm not a celebrity to that same magnitude that they are, but I do have a platform and I understand what comes with that. But I like to take as many opportunities as I possibly can to remind you guys of that, because I fall victim to it myself. There are times where I might see a content creator and I might be jealous of them. I might compare my inside to their outside. But then I have to remember that, wait a minute, I do this too. And some people probably look at me the same way that I might look at them, and they don't know half of the struggles that I faced unless they either watch all of my videos or read my books. So, in other words, remember that I am a person just like you, and I'm no better than you. Just because I have a platform doesn't make me any better than you. Now, as far as how I became the way that I am, I don't really know how to answer that question. I guess it's just a mix of nature and nurture. I feel like I've always been a relatively disciplined person, and I think that might be more of a nature thing. My mind has always been pretty goal-oriented, but at the same time, I think that growing up in an environment where maybe academic excellence was encouraged, and even being in a place like America as a whole where competition prevailed, this sort of fed into an internal inferiority complex that inspired me to overcompensate for that inferiority complex. And that's why I was able to achieve so much at such a young age. And as far as maybe my wisdom or my insights, things like that, I just have a good understanding of people. I don't know where that comes from. I think that that's something that I've always had. That's just a nature thing. I've always been a pretty sensitive person, and that sensitivity has proven to be a gift and a curse. It's a gift in the sense that I can empathize with people, and that makes me really good at giving advice. I've always been the person that people turn to for advice, but it can be a little detrimental in the sense that I don't really respond very well to criticism. So it's a dual-edged sword, and I have to accept the mechanism as a whole. So understand that even if you're just taking individual aspects of who you perceive me to be, even those aspects are imperfect in their own ways. So just focus on being yourself and being the best version of yourself that you can be. And honestly, that's the best way to be like me or be like any other person that you look up to. If you look up to somebody, the chances are you look up to them because they've mastered who they are. And deep down, that resonates with you. So focus on mastering yourself as opposed to trying to be perfect or trying to be like somebody else. And in doing so, you will be like them. You'll embody the best version of yourself, and in that way, you'll be similar to them because they've embodied the best versions of themselves. Remember, you can never be a better version of somebody else than they could be of themselves. But the same is true the opposite way around. Okay, nobody can be a better version of you than you can be of yourself. And if you remember that, and if you map your life around that understanding, you will be the person who receives questions like the one that you just asked me. The next dilemma is from Khalid. Hello, I'm a fan of yours from Algeria, and I've been following from day one. I do not know where to start, but I will try to keep this short and clear. I do not understand why I feel that everyone else is better than me. Ever since I was a child, I was always absolutely convinced that I am inferior to everyone. I've always been looking up to others while looking down on myself as if I'm unworthy of being alive. I'm not sure where these feelings come from, but I think I hate myself from having a medical condition that I have no control over. I have strabismus, and it makes me feel ugly and worthless. Of course, my parents tried their best to fix it, but it wasn't enough. I'm not saying it's their fault because I know that at that time, my country's medical system was too underdeveloped to handle cases like me. We managed to fix what we could fix, but the result is not perfect because the eye turn is still visible to others, which makes me feel uncomfortable. This reminds me of something, my guilt complex. I feel so guilty about the effort my parents put into treating my condition that I feel that my existence is a nuisance to others. Indeed, I always stay away from people because I am convinced that I am a pain in their necks. I just feel so ashamed of having them travel from an isolated Algerian city near the borders of Libya to the capital, Algiers, multiple times a year to see a doctor. Now I'm 25, and because of these feelings, I'm stuck. I can neither get a job nor a girlfriend. I have no friends because people think I'm weird or arrogant, but in reality, I'm broken from the inside. I haven't even been taking care of my hygiene a lot, and I lost interest in all of my hobbies. I can't make any decisions because I just keep questioning myself all the time. The more I try to silence my brain, the louder it gets, and it just doesn't stop. I feel like giving up on life now. Okay, Khalid, first of all, I appreciate you for being so vulnerable and open as far as this dilemma goes. Now, with that being said, I just did some research on your condition, and from what I understand, it seems like it's purely a physical thing. It's purely a physical condition, and while you don't have control over that, presumably, because you said that you've been seeing doctors and you still have the condition, while you may not have control over the cosmetic effects of that condition, you do have control over your perception of the cosmetic effects of that condition. And I understand that this is much easier said than done, and the whole spiel about self-love can be very, very exhausting to hear when you're in a position where you don't look the way that you want, you don't feel the way that you want, so on and so forth. But you have to understand that everything about your life right now, the way that it currently seems to you, is solely based on the way that you're choosing to perceive it. For example, the fact that you have that condition means that you have eyes. And that's something to be grateful for. Now, I'm not here to invalidate the way that you feel. I'm not here to invalidate your grievances because I have been in your position. Not with that same exact condition, but I've been in a position where I wasn't happy with my physical appearance and it really, really bothered me. And because of that, I tried to overcompensate in certain areas, maybe buying certain clothes or jewelry or things like that, that didn't really actually heal the pain. It didn't heal the core wound that I was experiencing, which had manifested in this physical condition. And that's what I want you to really consider. I'm not saying that it's your fault that you have this physical condition, but the way that you feel about this physical condition is indicative of either one experience or a collection of experiences that you had during your childhood years, your formative years. From the time you were born until you turned 8 or 9 years old, your brain was developing the fastest that it's ever developed for the entirety of your life. right? And the fastest that it ever would develop again for the entirety of your life. And bearing that in mind, you have to understand that your brain was drawing a lot of conclusions about the world during that time frame. A lot of subconscious conclusions, and these conclusions are the programs which we operate on. They're the lens through which we view reality and, to an even deeper extent, ourselves. At some point along the way, you were led to believe that your condition made you less worthy than other people. And to be even more specific, it made you feel like you were unlovable. And this right here, unlovability, is the single most detrimental, in my opinion, core wound that anybody can ever operate from, right? If you're operating from a space of being unlovable, of feeling like you are unlovable, you're always going to project that energy outward to others. Now, what I challenge you to do is, first of all, figure out what events caused you to feel like you were unlovable. It might have been very, very, very minor isolated events that, with the context of the rest of your life, make sense now, but at the time didn't make sense. And by extension, altered your internal subconscious programming. And that is the lens through which you still perceive reality. So take some time to journal and meditate on the things that really made you feel like you were unlovable. It might not have just been related to your condition. It might have been something else related to your appearance, or maybe the way that you spoke, or the stuff that you wore at a young age, whatever. Think about the situations that made you feel in the moment, not with the context of the rest of your life and your adult level intelligence, but at that moment, made you feel unlovable. And it's going to take you down a relatively dark path. You're going to go through some shadows. Okay, you're going to go through the shadows of your subconscious mind, and that's why it's called shadow work. You're illuminating all of the stuff that you've hidden from yourself all of this time. It's time to pay yourself that restitution and heal and make peace with the events that caused you to believe that you were unlovable.